Hi everybody, welcome back. I am here to chat about our QAL2. So I have a couple blocks already done and I have a couple more cut out, but after I did the first one and I saw how much fabric kind of got wasted, kind of drives me a little crazy to waste fabric. We spend a lot of money on fabric and all of these little triangles went to waste on the first block. All of these came from one block. So I thought about it and I hadn't cut all my fabric yet, so I redid it slightly differently. I cut a different size strip. I cut them into triangles before I assembled, and my version turned out this much scrap versus all of this. So the original directions are good. They're going to get you a beautiful block. This is the one that was made with the first direction. I made the second one with my own version, and so you can see that there's just a lot of difference in how much fabric got wasted. So real quick, I'll show you how I did that. I'll just set that aside for now. I tend to keep a little bowl like that around for all the scraps. So every time I cut off selvage or something, I just throw it in the bowl and then it's easy to clean up later. Some people use those little fabric bags. I don't have any ability to deal with all of that. It's just more stuff in my way, but the bowl I can shove where I need it. So let's talk about block construction again. We're going to look at how the original directions were. So you have a center block, right? And we go on all four sides of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's our middle color, as I'm calling it. Then we have an outside color. Oh, that's right. This one I had done kind of different. It's really pretty. So this is our outside color. And I tried to make it to where all the peachy colors were in the center, away from the outside edge, since I've got that corally peach background fabric. So there is our original block construction. Now, that original one asked us to do this and to trim off all that excess. So this is how it's supposed to look. Might help if I put it right side up, right? So this is following the original tutorial, going by the original instructions, and there's nothing wrong with those instructions. They're good, they're valid, they do work. Just in my opinion, a little bit of fabric waste. And I'm not fond of that. So this is how it originally asked us to do this. I tend to be someone who looks at it and say, how can I make it better? So I did, in my opinion. Now, no matter what you do, you're going to be sewing with bias edges at this stage, right? So this is a little different. If you remember, as I pressed all of these blocks out first, or pressed all of the strips out when I cut my original fabric, I already put best press through most of it, but it's a fairly easy process to just add some best press before you cut triangles so that your fabric is a little stiffer. So in my own version, instead of cutting 2.5 inch strips for all of them, I did cut some 2.5, but I also cut 3 inch strips. You can see the difference in the square size, just 1 inch, right? So this was the original instruction, cut all the strips at 2.5. So I'm using the 2.5 inch strips a little bit, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then I used the 3 inch. So the 3 inch I cut in half on the diagonal so that I have half square triangles. Okay, so same 3 inches, I just cut it in half. And now I'm going to place those in the quilt next to where I need to be. 3 inches was actually a tiny bit generous. I could have gone a tiny bit. Realistically, the measurement is 2 7/8. It's just easier for me to cut 3. The tiny bit of waste that we had wasn't worth all of the effort of squaring up corners 100% perfectly. I'd rather trim off just a teeny bit so that it's still fast, but still not have as much waste. So that plus that, and then 2 more. So these are all 3 inch squares. Okay, now you can see I have extra corners that aren't met yet. Here's what I did. The 2.5 inch strip, I cut those squares in half also. So let me get out a smaller ruler. So 2.5 inch square, and I'm just gonna cut that in half on the diagonal. So just line up my ruler, point to point, and cut. Oops, I needed 2 of those, and since I didn't stack them, I'll just do them separately. Okay, so I'm going to place this here. I'm going to finish cutting. Oh, nope, there it goes. Tiny bit, not quite all the way through. This one goes here, this one goes here, and this one goes here. Construction on this is exactly the same as the other one. You're going to sew each row and you're going to press in a direction. So I do the center, press in one direction. And when I was done sewing that, I snipped off my corners. Okay, so when that was all sewn together, snip, snip on the other end. And then to the next row, same construction, and press the lines the other direction. You still want them to alternate, and you still want to pin those lines when you sew them together so that you get nice crisp corners. Okay, all of these corners are pretty awesome. They all line up really well. Nothing's overlapping, no large gaps. I really like the way those corners look, and that's all because of the pinning. This one, when you get to the end, you're going to sew on these little triangles. That is on a bias edge, so be real careful not to stretch. And then again, trim out those corners as you get to them. I just trimmed as I went. It didn't take long. But that's it. That is my fabric saving method. It's very much like the old one. Realistically, if this was the original quilt, right? This was the square. And all we're doing is not throwing away all of this fabric. By cutting a little bit of a larger triangle, tiny bit, we're actually not having to throw away half the triangle. So cutting a little bit more but using more of that fabric was worth it to me. I'm going to keep going with that method. I'll let you know later how much fabric it saved me, but I think in the end it was a good idea. This quilt is going to be really pretty. A lot of the colors are going to be real similar. They're all either green or black, or there's a few that are white. This one had a white. This Jelly Roll's beautiful. But there were a lot of duplicates within the strips. A lot of duplicates. So we're going to play with it a little bit more as I keep going. But all these beautiful colors. This one's the only ones. This print is the only one that's really variegating between the colors. So they should be lots of fun to play with as I keep going. But I hope you guys enjoy this quilt as much as I'm going to. I'm going to keep running with it. Again, if you are starting this week, we only have to have 5 done every week. If you're starting next week, 6 a week. It's not that hard. Towards the end of this, we'll do for sure one other video and show everyone how to do the sashing and then how to join those rows and those measurements. So I'll give very specific measurements. The tutorial that we're following really didn't give cutting instructions for that. They kind of assume people know how to quilt and can figure out those measurements, but I will happily share those measurements with you and make sure that we all have exactly what we need to finish these up. I'm excited. It's going to be really pretty. I bought enough fabric to bind the quilt in the same coral color, so it's going to just go from sashing right into binding, and I might use some of the greens and do just a real small piping on that border. If my local quilt shop has any of that fabric, I might see if I can get it. If not, I might have to order it online so that it's done by the time this quilt is ready to bind. But I hope you all are doing well. I hope you are healthy and safe. I hope this quarantine is giving you time with your friends and, well, your family at home, and that you all are well. We have been enjoying lots of quality time in our home. We've been enjoying all kinds of yummy homemade food. I normally cook from scratch a lot, but I've been messing with sourdough and having all kinds of fun there. So drop me a line, let me know what you thought of the video, let me know if you have any questions, and tell me how you're doing through this quarantine. We'll talk to you soon, ladies. Have a good day.